Welcome to Sunday Stories. I'm Michael Sanford. Over the next hour, we'll be sharing stories that celebrate the rich history, amazing people, and fascinating places throughout our region and beyond. They're the people that run into danger to save lives and property. Firefighters are heroes and an important part of any community. California has over 31,000 men and women classified as firefighters, the most of any state. In today's lead story, we'll visit Lake Tahoe Community College to see how their Fire Academy program is preparing candidates for this vitally important career.
As California faces a future with more frequent and more deadly wildfires, leaders say it's crucial to prepare the next generation of firefighters.
Here in the Tahoe Basin, I hate to say it, but we basically live in a tinderbox, right? We live in surrounded and immersed in nature, which is many of the reasons why we love to live here. But with that, the wildfire threat is very real. And so having a fire academy in Lake Tahoe makes a lot of sense because it's responding to our local concerns, our local needs.
Lake Tahoe Community College Fire Academy, later on Sunday Stories. In today's profile story, we'll head to Midtown Sacramento to meet Suleka Sun-Lindle, owner and chef of 2 restaurants, Basil Veg Café. Fresh ingredients, sauces made from scratch, and Thai hospitality are the secrets to the success of her family business.
Suleka is the owner and chef of Thai Basil in Midtown Sacramento. After being in it for most of her life, she's developed her natural talent as a chef.
Here we go. Good seeing you too. Good seeing you.
In 2016, she transformed the space above Thai Basil into a restaurant with distinct seasonal vegetarian and vegan dishes. Suleka's 2 restaurants are a culmination of her love for a healthy lifestyle, design, family, and traditional Thai values, all under one roof.
From Thai Basil to Veg Café, Suleka's culinary journey, later on Sunday Stories. According to the 2019 Homeless Point in Time count, on any given night, approximately 5,500 people experience homelessness in Sacramento. A variety of programs run by nonprofit or charitable organizations provide assistance, support, and services to those in need. Rob Stewart rides with Sister Libby Fernandez and introduces us to the Mercy Peddlers, a group of bicyclers and tricyclers who are hitting the street to connect with and help the men and women experiencing homelessness.
Sister Libby is here every single day. 75 volunteers have joined her nonprofit outreach, bringing mercy to the streets.
If you have 6,000 people in our city and county, you can't expect them all to go to Loaves and Fishes for a meal during the afternoon. Mercy is bringing compassion and heart and direct services to people in need. And to be a person of mercy is not a feeling, it's an action.
Bicycling to bring services directly to the homeless, ahead on Sunday Stories. Most Americans are familiar with Rosie the Riveter and the story of women answering the call in World War II, stepping into roles traditionally filled by men. In 1941, after the bombing of Pearl Harbor, a group of women in Citrus Heights answered the call to help their own community. They came together to form one of the nation's earliest all-female volunteer firefighting organizations.
The men of the community, including the firefighters, were called to wars. Here in Citrus Heights, the need was for firefighting.
I need you to stand back from this fire. Everyone?
They had grit. They were unique. They loved each other. They really cared for the community, and they had families that they wanted to protect.
Later on Sunday Stories, the historic Ladies to the Rescue of Citrus Heights. Plus, a sisterly spin on group exercise, the budget challenges facing California public schools, the sweet story of beet sugar, and local pianist Richard Glazier. But first, Lake Tahoe Community College's Fire Academy offers training to an increasingly diverse pool of candidates wanting to be firefighters in their own community.
This academy specifically, it's a lot of physical work, but even more so mental. So if your mental game is strong and you're focused on the goals, you might struggle through it, but you're gonna make it no matter what.
Heidi Strahl joined the Fire Academy at Lake Tahoe Community College because it was only 2 days a week, allowing her to keep her job while she was in school.
Financially, I needed to go to a community college program. I chose it a lot for the schedule and for the finances, not really knowing the family that I would accrue upon being in this program.
Heidi is now employed by the nearby Truckee Fire Department, and that's exactly why this academy was created, to fill the ranks of local fire agencies around Lake Tahoe.
Many years ago when we started the academy, the chiefs in the area said, we don't want to have to send our kids off the hill to go we don't want them trained in Sacramento. We don't want them trained in Santa Rosa. We want to train them right here. So that's why we created the Fire Academy.
Here in the Tahoe Basin, I hate to say it, but we basically live in a tinderbox, right? We live in, surrounded and immersed in nature, which is many of the reasons why we love to live here. But with that, the wildfire threat is very real. And so having a fire academy in Lake Tahoe makes a lot of sense because it's responding to our local concerns, our local needs.
Can you go, are you comfortable going aloft?
We can do a number one.
Yes.
The two of us can do a number one.
The academy has been funneling firefighters to local Tahoe agencies since it was established in 2006. And now it's diversifying those agencies as well. The community college says it's making an intentional effort to recruit more women and people of color.
We have the most diverse student body in all of higher education in California. That is a plus for employers like fire departments who are looking to diversify their own workforce.
Here in the Tahoe area, we have a huge Hispanic population. So during a medical emergency, if you can speak Spanish to somebody and look them in the eye and put them at ease, that's huge. I mean, that's going to be a marketable skill. So that kind of diversity is amazing for us.
Eric Mejia hopes being bilingual will help him land a firefighting job.
We didn't do body check. So
a native of El Salvador, he's been learning English while attending the academy.
I'm not a really good English speaker or something, but I'll be there. I'm gonna learn all those words that I'm gonna need. But I will say the best advantage that I have is that I speak Spanish and that I never give up.
Despite the language barrier, Eric never gave up, and he graduated alongside fellow cadets at a ceremony steeped in tradition for the fire service.
We're really proud of that ceremony. It's about the cadets. It's not about the administrators, it's not about the fire chiefs, it's about the cadets and their journey throughout the last 9 months.
You could say it was kind of a childhood dream in a way. You're going to grab the first bundle that attaches to the gateway. It wasn't something that I really decided to pursue until I found out I was actually having a child of my own. And I've always been interested in any sort of public service, and the fire service just really appealed to me.
As California faces a future with more frequent and more deadly wildfires, leaders say it's crucial to prepare the next generation of firefighters. A workforce that's not only diverse, but fully prepared for the challenges ahead. It's a lesson learned when the Academy's very first class graduated in 2007, just one day before the Angora fire.
June 24th was the Angora fire, the largest fire we've ever had here in the basin. And they were on it. They were ready, they were prepared, and that was the message that we received. We need to be prepared. We need to have these kids ready to go.
For us, we have just a couple ways in, a couple different highways, 2-lane mostly, so it's essential that early alert, catching those fires early, and then also coordination with our community, that if we ever had a mass evacuation, that we're prepared for that.
This is not a simple job. This is a lifelong career. This is a lifestyle. This is a family, but this is also something where you need to pay attention to safety because it's your life.
For Heidi, she says the Fire Academy was the best thing she ever did in her life. And she continues to pass that message along to brand new recruits.
My advice would be just to never give up. I said that to this oncoming group that's going to start here in a couple of weeks. Don't ever quit on yourself and don't ever quit on your team, and you'll make it through.
Later, Mercy Peddler's mobile efforts to help those experiencing homelessness. But first, Thai Basil owner Suleka Sun-Lindle's career journey and the struggles she faced that led her to open her own culinary-influenced vegetarian, vegan restaurant, Veg Café.
It wasn't my idea, and it wasn't even what I wanted. Looking back, Mom knows best. She always knows that that's the career that I would end up taking.
There was a point in Suleka Sun-Lindle's life where she was juggling a successful architecture career while helping her mother and sisters with the family's Thai restaurants.
I knew that I couldn't do both of them together very long, so I had to decide to do just one.
It's been nearly 25 years since Suleka made the decision to stay in the family business.
You have to make the family work, and we were lucky enough to be able to make that work for us.
It was Suleka's mother who was the driving force behind creating the successful restaurants, which many diners consider to be a staple in the Sacramento region. Although her mother recently retired and returned to Thailand, Suleka and her sister continue keeping their mother's entrepreneurial dream alive. Today, Suleka's sister manages the original Thai Basil in Roseville, while Suleka is the owner and chef of Thai Basil in Midtown Sacramento. The restaurant industry might not have initially been Suleka's first choice, but after being in it for most of her life, she's developed her natural talent as a chef.
You have to be a problem solver all the time because the pace of the restaurant never stops. It's always going. You got noodle already heat up? Okay. 2 and 2, right? It's like you try to get the whole unit to work synchronously with so many parts moving at the same time. Okay, next. And a lot of time you have no control over. Oh, shoot. You just have to be able to spot what doesn't work and you get to fix it. Okay, there's a lot of hard work to get into it. In restaurant, you have to be crazy. First, you have to be crazy enough to get in it. You have to be even more crazy to stay in it.
Much of what Suleka has learned is from her mother, and she remains faithful to her mother's traditional ways of cooking. Just like her mom, she gathers fresh ingredients from local farmers markets. And she makes all the sauces and curries from scratch.
Give me a couple more peppers. Sure. Looking back, I was younger. Me and my mom's always like this when we were working together. I was looking for a way to make it easier, faster. Can we just buy the curry paste? She said, no, we can't. And my mom's just like, there's no shortcut. And whenever I try to do the shortcut, I can hear my mom's voice in the back of my head. It's just like, no shortcut. I think what resonates with customers is the Thai hospitality. Here we go. Good seeing you too. Good seeing you. The first impression is come to our home. Bear with me, my first day on the job. Really? When it comes to Thai food, people don't want to go out of their comfort zone trying different things. They want to stay with the dish that they like.
Suleka had a desire to do more than offer just the traditional Thai menu items.
You want a 2 order of spring roll then? Or just one?
She began offering seasonal dishes with gluten-free options.
I get kind of discouraged that people don't order my seasonal menu because they always wanted to eat the basic menu that we have. So I decided, you know, I want to incorporate what I like, and I want to introduce people with the healthier food.
Meals that focused less on meat and more on veggies. Yet that was a bit of an issue as well.
If you remember the movie, My Big Fat Greek Wedding or something, said, I don't eat meat. Oh, we have lamb. You know, it's the same thing in Thai people. Oh, you don't eat meat? We have chicken.
She actually became so discouraged, she decided to step back and reevaluate her life.
I took a break for 2 years. I went to Thailand and just kind of go back to my root and just go and do a lot of soul searching.
When she returned from Thailand, she asked herself,
if I get to do over again, what would that be?
Her answer? Veg Café. In 2016, she transformed the space above Thai Basil into a restaurant with distinct seasonal vegetarian and vegan dishes. Suleka's 2 restaurants are a culmination of her love for a healthy lifestyle, design, family, and traditional Thai values, all under one roof.
I get people ask, do I miss the architecture, or do I miss design? I said, anything that you like, you can always incorporate that into your everyday life.
So after making that fateful decision years ago, does she feel like it was a sacrifice? Not at all.
At the end of the day, your families always come first.
We wear our blue vests, so I have 75 peddlers out there on different streets. And now a homeless person looks for the vest and go, oh, it's a Mercy peddler, I'm over here.
Sister Libby Fernandez is used to the streets of Sacramento.
I like Sacramento because they do have a lot of bike lanes.
For 30 years, this Sister of Mercy has embraced every person she passes as a neighbor, a friend. They're not your typical neighbors. These are the residents of Sister Libby's heart, without a place to call home in Sacramento. They're waiting on Sister Libby's love and care to roll up on her moving ministry, Mercy Peddlers.
Oh, I got some hot coffee.
Sister Libby is here every single day. 75 volunteers have joined her nonprofit outreach, bringing mercy to the streets.
I love being downtown because it's eclectic. You see people who work for the state, business people, and you see a lot of homeless. You know, people who have a bench to spend the day on because they have no other place to be.
On this day, it's cold, windy, with temps in the 30s. In less than 15 minutes, we're working with 10 people.
And that's pretty too.
We have Velveeta.
They've been out here all night long, and each of them explained where they came from.
Yeah.
And it's no different than circumstances that other people go through, except they don't have anyone to fall back on.
Oh, absolutely. You know, I just look at Barry, who you gave a blanket to today, and he is from the foster care system, and he has a slight learning disability. So he's not quite disabled, but enough that it's hard for him to get a job or even to finish education. God bless you, okay?
Thank you.
All right, bye-bye. We cannot afford housing in California. People who are on fixed income, our seniors, who are on the edge, right there, close to homelessness. So we have more and more people suffering on the streets, lots more waiting there right at the edge.
Put this around like this, and if
I asked everybody we met today experiencing homelessness, what would you say if you were at the table trying to help come up with a solution? Every one of them said, we want to help.
Yeah.
Do you know, not one person asked me for money.
Isn't that interesting? Isn't that great? We're serving people who need something warm to drink, some nutrition, gloves, hats.
Look at that. They actually match.
Thanks, I appreciate this, sir.
Bye, Clarence. Have a good day.
Bye, Clarence.
Sister Libby began working with Sacramento's homeless population in 1989 at Loaves and Fishes, Sacramento's largest homeless operation, offering a hot meal to about 1,000 people every day at noon. Sister Libby rose to the top as CEO, bringing mental health needs and new gathering spaces to Loaves and Fishes, as she witnessed the number of people she was serving grow.
I found it very difficult in my heart that people who are hungry in Sacramento have to travel from distances every day to get a hot meal.
One Cadillac coming up.
And it takes time, it takes a good part of your day. So how else can you get a job or do other business when you've got to eat? If you have 6,000 people in our city and county, you know, you can't expect them all to go to Loaves and Fishes for a meal during the afternoon. So we've got to reach out.
And we can't expect that from Loaves and Fishes either.
No. When the need is even greater and more visible, it gets overwhelming. It's like, come on, folks, let's wake up. Where are our shelters today? Where are our housing today? There's too many people suffering on the streets. It can get greater and overwhelming. And look at the elements out here. Can you imagine being out here at night?
And frankly, that's why we did not go inside, because we could have gone in somewhere to do this. We could have, but I wanted to do it in the real. This is what people are dealing with. And this is not even bad.
No,
yet.
No, the rain hasn't even come yet.
What does Mercy look like from here today?
Mercy is bringing compassion and heart and direct services to people in need. And to be a person of mercy is not a feeling, it's an action.
Want to do that one? Okay.
So when I think about this region rising, it starts with foundational steps.
Yes.
And you are one of them.
I love Sacramento, and I love the community members of Sacramento. I love how we all really do care, and we reach out, you know, whether it's the civic members, the community, the businesses, retired folks, family members. You know, we all really kind of like each other and like to work together.
I love you.
Very loving. I love you too, Rob.
Thank you for this day. Thank you.
Love you.
Still ahead, California public schools facing an uncertain fiscal future. Sisters Teresa, Elena, Alicia, and Michelle are the owners and operators of TEAMride. Their indoor cycling spin classes offer a full-body workout fueled by high-energy music.
TEAMride is a 45-minute total party. The music is pumping in here. You're in a packed room of 50. You're getting sweaty.
You can explain it all you want, but until you actually get in here, feel the energy, feel the music, and be on a bike, like to the beat, it's like nothing you've experienced.
4, 3, 2, 1, slow it down. Yeah. All right.
TEAMride is a full-body indoor cycling studio.
We've taken the general spin concept, but then obviously put it to music, so everything is to the beat. And then we added a whole upper body component, so you're targeting your abs and your arms the whole time.
Right here, right now, TEAMride. We breathe and we push.
TEAMride is a family affair owned by 4 sisters from Sacramento.
TEAM stands for Teresa, Elena, Alicia, Michelle.
Alicia, who is the A in TEAM, is not currently here in Sacramento. She resides in Seattle, Washington with her husband and 3 children. I know going into a business with family, they say, is the worst idea. And there are days where maybe I agree with that. But most of the time, it's like we love each other through and through. We know we're gonna get through it, and our strengths outweigh any negatives I see.
I think there's something to be said for being able to be your truest self with your business partners. It's the foundation.
Yeah.
But that tight-knit foundation was shattered nearly a decade ago with the passing of their father.
When our dad died, it crushed us, but we bonded together as sisters who
had a dad who believed in each and every one of us with all of his heart. And so we've taken that, held it firm in our hearts, and created something that I know he'd be proud of. We carry his spirit every day within these walls of the studio.
The idea of starting a business that was focused on fitness felt so right for us, because we were raised in a very, we were active as children. Our mother is very healthy just as a person, so it just felt right.
But as with almost any new enterprise, there were a few early setbacks.
I got nervous and said, what the heck are we doing? Like,
well, yeah, because you pulled out multiple times.
Oh, so many times.
Oh my God.
I was like, please let me go, this is too scary.
But then when she saw we weren't stopping, she thought, how can I not be a part of a business with my sisters?
Exactly.
And we kind of knew, we're like, okay, she's having her freak out moment.
Yeah.
She'll come around, and
We'll
it lasts
give her
like
a
maybe
moment.
24 hours.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Michelle's challenge? She lived in New York and thought she could help run the business from afar. Her sisters didn't quite see it that way.
They gave me an ultimatum, and they said, if you don't move home, we're not opening the business. They've said there's no way. And so I bawled my head off, and I was like, all right, I'm moving home. I think
She was really angry for a while.
Yeah, I was not happy for a solid 6 months.
We call those the dark days.
Yeah, I love it. The sacrifice was worth it.
Everything feels like trial and error. It doesn't feel like there's a handbook out there that says you have to do this and then you have to do this. There are no guidelines. So everything feels just on us. The pressure is really on us all the time. I think a business challenge too is just keeping our staff on a similar page.
That kind of thing was something I didn't even think about. I just thought we're gonna open our doors and people will come. And it's all gonna work out.
It's just beyond exciting to feel like we are at the head of a business that is thriving and that has limitless potential. The level of support in the community for us and for TEAMride is unbelievable. It really has taken on a life of its own. This is more than just a workout. This is a community. This is joy. This is gratitude.
The energy is so just electric. You come in here, everybody's so happy, so free, so ready to just get in there and sweat and have a good time. And then when you leave, everybody's like, yeah, have a good day. I never leave a class unhappy, never, ever.
When you're in class, you hear I see you, Taylor. I see you, Taylor. And all sorts of stuff, and it just feels like I'm cycling with my friends and with my family. So that's what brings me back. It's just the community and the people here.
Let's get the water right here.
I basically thank God every day for my sisters, and I honestly think this is us living our best lives. We get to do everything we want to do. Yes, we work super hard, and yes, the business is our everything, but I don't think any of us would trade what we have for any other type of life.
State takeover, insolvency, school budget disaster. We've all seen startling headlines in recent years about some school districts across California. But what does it all mean?
We're 41st in the nation in what we spend per kid. In California, the richest state, in the richest nation on the face of the earth. And the pathetic funding that we have per pupil is something that's got to be dealt with.
With more than 6 million students and 1,100 school districts, California has the largest public school system in the country. But some school districts are struggling financially.
Will you see more enter into this general category of fiscal distress? Yes, you will.
We've enjoyed the longest economic growth period in California since World War II. Yet hundreds of school districts are cutting their budgets. So what's the problem here? The problem here is that what we're not doing in a growing economy is investing in education. We're just not doing it.
According to many in education, the problem also has to do with the state increasing the financial burden on districts at a time when many districts face declining revenue. While each district faces unique challenges, experts agree there are some common factors contributing to the budget crisis in California's schools. Factor number one, the pension system.
Most teachers are in the CalSTRS system, and Jerry Brown, the governor at the time a few years ago, realized, of course, we need to put more money into the system. So they raised the contribution for districts over time so that districts would have time to build that increase into their budget.
That increase will more than double what districts are required to contribute to employee pensions, going from 8.3% of their payroll in the 2013-2014 school year to 19.1% by 2021.
They want you to have the money today for the person that you hire today so that when they retire, the money will be there.
In his first year in office, California Governor Gavin Newsom pledged $3 billion to help offset the large increase in pension costs school districts are having to pay. District officials say it's a step in the right direction, but it still isn't enough. Contributing factor number two, declining enrollment.
About 60% of school districts in California are declining enrollment, and that's a significant issue because their revenue from the state is tied to enrollment and attendance.
Many parents in financially strapped districts are moving their kids to charter or private schools, and it's happening at a rapid pace. Adding to the financial pressure is the way schools are funded, on a per-pupil, per-day basis. For each child who misses a day of school, the district receives less money, even though they're paying the same amount for the teacher and the classroom. Contributing factor number three, the increasing costs of everything.
We are seeing increased costs on so many fronts. We're experiencing an increase in our pension costs. We are experiencing an increase in our healthcare costs. We are also seeing an increase just in the cost of doing business.
According to Sacramento Unified School District officials, those increases have put them $35 million in the red.
Currently, Sac City Unified spends 91 cents of every dollar on employee benefits and salaries, and we're trying to work with our labor partners to lower that to the state average of 86 cents per dollar, or even lower if we can.
The simple solution seems to be, well, the largest chunk of the budget are teacher salaries, so let's cut teacher salaries and we'll save the money. That's not the solution, and very rarely is.
There are consequences if they don't ultimately stabilize.
Michael Fine leads the organization tasked with keeping school districts out of financial trouble. It's called FCMAT, which stands for Fiscal Crisis and Management Assistance Team. They work with troubled districts to find options for recovery. Districts that still struggle after several FCMAT warnings may face what many call a state takeover. The official term, insolvency.
When a school district has insufficient cash to meet payroll and they have exhausted all of their cash borrowing options, then that's the definition of insolvency.
At that point, the district is forced to ask the state for a loan. That loan triggers a transfer of governing authority. Until the fall of 2018, that authority was transferred to the state. That's why you hear it called a state takeover. In 2018, the process was changed, giving counties the authority and requiring them to appoint an outside administrator to govern the district.
Generally, the superintendent is dismissed, and that administrator that the county superintendent assigns then becomes the board, the superintendent, and they go to work solving the budget problems.
They look at cutting all expenses that aren't mandatory.
Higher class sizes, fewer resources for the students, all those kinds of things. And it also burdens the district with loans that take them years to pay off.
Well, state takeover would be not good for our students or families, and that's why we're trying to do everything we can to avoid it.
Officials familiar with the process say insolvency ends up costing school districts far more after paying back the loan and millions of dollars in interest. There's also concern that an outside administrator would be focused on the fiscal solvency of the district and not on the classroom.
The main concern as a parent is for the long term, the future students coming into the Sac City Unified School District.
There's been talk that if the state takes over, then we'll have a lot less money than we already do right now. And if that happens, then we're going to have to make a lot of cuts.
With all the people leaving, I mean, you're just going to be left with, schools that are not well taken care of. And then now you've got maybe less, teachers and other cutbacks, and so bigger class sizes. So yeah, it's just going to be a horrible situation.
But despite what sounds like a gloomy situation, experts in education say there are signs that the tide could be turning. They're actually optimistic.
It gives me great optimism to see a governor who says in his State of the State address, the first governor in decades to actually acknowledge that we've got a problem with per pupil funding and something has to be done about it.
Since 1991, we've had 9 school districts and 1 community college district that didn't respond to the intervention. To have 9 in 27, 28 years, I think is probably a pretty good record. It's actually a reflection that the system's working.
I believe that we are on the verge, because of all the changes we've made, of doing some really exciting things in California, differently than anywhere else in the country.
While future firefighters were the focus of our earlier story on the Fire Academy program, our next story takes us back in time. It recalls the history of the Citrus Heights Ladies Auxiliary, an all-female volunteer firefighter organization that served their community during World War II. And the Ladies in White, women working in conjunction with firefighters to treat medical emergencies after the war ended.
Citrus Heights had a lot of family farms in the 1930s. The nearest firefighter was a half-hour away in Sacramento. In 1933, a barn on Sunrise Boulevard caught fire. Jean Desmond and Virgil Mulch watched helplessly as it burned to the ground. So Jean, along with Virgil Mulch and a few other families, started their own volunteer fire department. They raised money to buy equipment and trained themselves how to fight fires. Jean quickly noticed a problem. The men had jobs and were not available most of the day to fight fires. So Jean trained the women how to fight fires too. Wives, sisters, and friends.
They were doing what needed to be done because their husbands were not available. They were not turning down any type of fire that needed to be fought.
They'd get the call, and it didn't matter what they were doing. They'd put on these blue jumpsuits over their clothes. For me, it's interesting to see what footwear they have on, because it's not necessarily the sturdiest of footwear. There's an interesting array of sandals and shoes with little heels that you would not wear firefighting, but time was of the essence.
A couple of them anyway were bus drivers also for the school district. So they knew how to drive, and they were ready to go. They weren't afraid of this stuff. They said that Lola Oldham was not afraid to go up to the roof. She would ride on the back of the trucks, and she would climb the ladders. The oldest daughter of Lola Oldham, if the siren came at dinner time, she got to finish cooking the dinner and take care of the children while her mother got picked up to go put the fire out. And so this was a family investment.
A siren at the main station alerted everyone to a fire. 1 blast for a grass fire, 2 blasts for a structure fire. It could be heard for miles. One day it blew and just kept going. Everyone sensed that something was really wrong, and they were right. Pearl Harbor had just been bombed.
The men of the community, including the firefighters, were called to war. A lot of the women in Southern California in particular became Rosie the Riveters. Here in Citrus Heights, the need was for firefighting. And so in late 1941, Chief Desmond and his wife Zella formed the Ladies Auxiliary, one of the country's earliest all-female volunteer firefighting organizations.
They had grit. They were unique. They loved each other. They really cared for the community, and they had families that they wanted to protect. They weren't going to wait for someone to come from Sacramento to come put their fires out. That wasn't going to happen.
House fires were especially devastating. Occupants were left with a lot of smoke and water damage to deal with. Most did not have insurance to cover losses. so the ladies went the extra mile.
It wasn't unusual for them to pick up the brooms and mops after a fire and to clean the house. And they also, if a family, there was an instance of a family that lost their clothing and everything in a fire, so they threw an organized party where people could bring them clothing as presents.
Aside from fighting fires, the ladies maintained normal lives. The central fire station played host to many socials.
They had square dances, ballroom dancing, they had card games, they had potlucks, and the kids would just run all through the place and around, and the parents who really did enjoy each other a lot.
When World War II ended, the ladies continued fighting fires. The need was there. Their biggest challenge came in 1947 when a large military installation caught fire.
Camp Kohler had a lot of structures that were built on cement blocks with just 2x4s and chicken wire and tar paper structures.
There was quite a few oil drums stored, which went off like skyrockets. It was such a big fire that there was, a number of firefighters there that fighting alongside women was a novelty, but they proved themselves and received numerous compliments from their colleagues.
It was horribly traumatic for these women, and they had been there for, I think, 6 hours till 9 o'clock at night fighting this fire. 2 of the women got second-degree burns and had to go to the hospital. The thing that cinched it, that they just really didn't want to wreck their physical health over fighting fires.
In 1947, men had returned from the war. The Ladies' Auxiliary sensed their time of service was at an end and disbanded late in 1947. The women quietly refocused their lives on more traditional roles. Then, just a few years later, something happened as Chief Desmond and his firefighters responded to a fire off of Auburn Boulevard.
On the way, they came to an accident on Auburn involving a bus and a car. And with the one fire truck, they stopped, and Chief Desmond quickly realized that some of the firefighters had to stay and deal with the medical emergencies of the traffic accident while he sent the rest of the firefighters and the truck off to fight the fires. It was at that moment he realized, we need help. The Desmonds and Mary Bost and Esteline Mulch, who are all from the Ladies' Auxiliary, and then Louise Patterson. They founded the Ladies in White in 1951 to respond primarily in the beginning to medical emergencies. It's a pioneering concept in that women in this capacity working in conjunction with firefighters is a novel concept in the country and hadn't happened before.
And I think the Ladies in White brought that awareness of, wait a minute, emergency medical services is huge. And they pushed that thought, that mentality, to the administration at Citrus Heights Fire, who said, you know what, they're onto something here, and we probably better pursue that.
Different circumstances led to becoming a Lady in White. For Shirley Verhines, it was a tragic accident that claimed the life of her 4-year-old daughter. The Ladies in White responded to the call.
You know, they did everything they could to help us. And at one point then the captain, who was Mary Bost, came by to see me a few months later and said, Shirley, why don't you join the Ladies in White? I think she felt that I had, dealt more or less rationally when it was my own child, which I did. And I'm kind of a do what needs to be done and fall apart later type person, which she thought was, and it was, ideal for the rescue squad. And I did join the Ladies in White.
My daughter, every time she got hurt, even if she stubbed her toe, almost went into shock. And I decided I needed to do something to figure out what to do with this kid, And so basically that's how I got involved.
My friends could not believe that I could do such a thing. No, I just got all positive remarks.
We had a knock on our door one day. There was a big fire truck out front.
and they were citing us for illegal trash burn in our backyard. And so from that point on, they talked my husband into being a firefighter. And then I joined the Ladies in White later on in 1963. I don't know what I was thinking. I had a full-time job, and I had 2 small children under the age of 5. And my husband had a full-time job. And when did I think I would have time for this? However, I didn't think that way then. It just was a natural happening. And it was the best decision I ever made.
We had white coveralls. I believe they were from JCPenney. So, and we put the emblems on there, and that was our uniform, that and white tennis shoes.
We had radios in our homes, and we would call the dispatcher and say, well, I'm available to go on a call, check me in, or I'm not available, check me out. And we would listen for our radios, and after a while, our guests and our family, everyone were trained, when that radio goes off, everyone stops talking. It could be 3 o'clock in the morning, and your radio would go off. If it was in your area, you'd be sent directly to the call. We would basically provide relief of bleeding, breathing, poisoning, the very life-threatening things that you're taught in advanced first aid at the time, because that's what we had.
I had no medical background at all, so I had to learn it. And we were trained by the Red Cross and the hospitals, and we would go to monthly big training sessions.
Going to weekly drills, sometimes you might grouse a little bit and think you didn't want to go to drill, but they were all important.
We would practice on Wednesday nights at Station 21, and sometimes they would teach us things that we probably would never use, but they wanted us to just be familiar with it. And the jaws of life, we did practice on that a little bit.
But just doing things like that, and how to clear an airway, how to properly suspend the head so you can do mouth to mouth. And what do you do when somebody's going into shock? What do you do when somebody has an exposed compound fracture with the bone sticking out of the leg?
I am so glad I did it. It gives you a feeling of worth. I felt positive going in and learning. I felt like I could take care of my own kids better with the training. And I felt I was doing something for my community, and that's important.
There were basic things that had to be done, and so they weren't going to sit and watch the field burn up. They weren't going to see someone's property get wrecked. They were going to go out and help. If I had been there, I would have loved to have gone along with them. They were people that didn't hesitate, and they had fun while they were doing it.
It's an example of how women could help in a very big way, in a non-traditional way, and they succeeded beautifully at it. It's part of our history, and it needs to be told.
Later, musician Richard Glazier shares his passion for Judy Garland and George and Ira Gershwin. But first, let's head to the vault, where from our archives we found this sweet California heartland story about how the odd-looking sugar beet ends up in many of our kitchens.
If you're all fired up about gooey desserts, well, you're not alone. We Americans love sweets. In fact, each of us consumes more than 64 pounds of sugar every year. They're one of the oddest looking California agricultural products, sugar beets, but they're a mighty important crop. It's hard to believe how much work it takes to turn one beet into table sugar.
One of life's simple pleasures, sugar. More than an occasional indulgence, it's something we eat and drink daily. Most comes from sugar cane, but nearly half comes from sugar beets, some grown right here in California. Whether cane or beet, how is all this sugar made? For answers, we stopped at the Spreckles Sugar Beet Refinery in the Central California town of Mendota. This is where the magic takes place, turning this into this. But it all starts here, in sugar beet fields throughout California. Plants are topped, then machine harvested. Hard to believe, but these beets are related to red table beets. Some tip the scale at 40 pounds. Once at the refinery, what a sight. Get this, plant manager Don Gorsuch says they'll go through the mountain of beets in just one day. More than 8 million pounds. From here,
the beets are conveyed over a dirt screen where the dirt is removed. The beets are flumed into the factory by water and processed afterwards.
then it's off to the slicer, which leaves the beets looking, well, kind of like French fries.
They do taste a bit like sugar, not like French fries.
Next, the beets are washed in a water solution.
Basically, we're just transferring the sugar from the beet into water.
Now to the heart of the process.
The 4 vessels you see with the vapors coming out the top is our juice purification process.
Impurities are removed with carbon dioxide and a lime solution. It may look like lava, but it does the trick. What's left? This sugar syrup.
Once the material is thickened through evaporation, this is the material that we make the white sugar that you use on your tables.
Now things are really cooking. The syrup is boiled and crystals start forming. After separation with centrifugal force and a little drying, voila, your basic white table sugar. More than 1 million pounds a day. Most consumed right here in California. Just as amazing, you won't see any power lines here because,
believe it or not, we produce our own electricity. It's cost effective because we use the steam in the sugar manufacturing.
now sugar may be sweet, but dangerous too. You see, sugar dust is flammable. This past summer, a Nebraska refinery exploded after witnesses say it was struck by lightning. Gives you a newfound respect for what it takes to bring sugar from the field to your table. But what a sweet reward.
One of the ways I was really introduced to this wonderful genre of the American song and the American popular musical is my parents. They bought this projector for me, and in those days you could go to the public library and with just a library card check out 16mm IB Tech prints of Wizard of Oz, Meet Me in St. Louis, An American in Paris, all the classics for free for 2 days. I went to the public library and I checked out every book, every record I could about the Gershwins, and just started reading all about them and learning so many things about the era. So I have these wonderful memories of sitting in our basement, threading the projector, sitting next to my mom, and this whole world was opened up to me where I learned about all this great music, records that I still have in this house in my collection today.
And your home is filled with these beautiful posters. Look at this one, it's huge.
This is called a 3-sheet of Andy Hardy Meets Debutante. The reason it's called a 3-sheet because there's 1 sheet here, 1 sheet here, and 1 sheet here, and they're glued together.
With, of course, your beloved Judy Garland.
Right. You know, I fell in love with the voice of Judy Garland. I saw Girl Crazy before I saw The Wizard of Oz. And I thought that she was just so beautiful in that movie. She looked so beautiful, and her singing is so tender and lyrical and romantic and just so special.
Richard, your house, every wall is covered with musical moments.
Isn't a home supposed to be surrounded with things that you love? And that's
what
my wife and I have tried to do in our home. I don't claim that I am the Gershwin interpreter. I play very different than the way Gershwin played. But I think it's wonderful because wouldn't the life be boring if everybody played the same way? I'm just interpreting the music. I'm a conduit between the composer and the audience. As a performer, the music and the respect of the music and the respect of the composer always comes first. When I'm performing, there has to be an element of detachment involved in the performance. Otherwise, if you become totally absorbed, then you lose track of communicating with your audience. There's a part of you that has to be in that front row listening. I would like to think, and I have played for people who knew Ira and were closely associated with him, and would say, Ira would have loved that. I wish Ira was alive to hear you play that. It's my passion, it's my life. I mean, there's nothing that makes me happier than being able to communicate this love to other people. And that's a very special thing, because the love in art, again, no matter what it is, whether you're a teacher, whatever it is, you want to achieve a focused energy. That the energy is like a laser beam going out to each individual that's listening to you. Music is something, we can't touch it, we can't feel it, we can't smell it, but it touches our soul, and it makes us feel something very special on the inside that elevates us to something that is magical, indeed magical.
I'm Michael Sanford. It's been a pleasure being part of your Sunday. We hope you've enjoyed today's stories and that you'll be back next time for another episode of Sunday Stories. Until then, have a great week.